Contract with the Jets this season before being released by the team. And clearing waivers, LAA sports agency not only reps Cook, but has Zay Flowers and J.K. Dobbins as clients as well. Depth is never a bad thing this time of year, am I right? Especially when a team's contending for a Super Bowl. Welcome into Sports Unlimited. Jeff Zrebiec of The Athletic is reporting that Cook will sign with the practice squad, giving the Ravens a chance to evaluate him the next couple of weeks. Cook played in 15 games with the Jets, but his numbers and usage, they're down significantly from last season with the Vikings. You see the Vikings on the left, Jets on the right. With Breece Hall as the primary back, Cook had just 67 carries for 214 yards, 0 touchdowns compared to last season when he rushed for more than 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns with the Vikings. John Harbaugh has announced on Wednesday that Lamar Jackson will not play in the regular season finale against the Steelers, and that opens the door for Pro Bowler Tyler Huntley to make his first start of the season, and it's an opportunity that Snoop will not take for granted.
Just an opportunity to get out there and play some ball and get another win for the Ravens. And I'm just going to seize the moment and do what I do.
Well put right there. The Ravens have ruled out a handful of players for Saturday, the guys who aren't playing and one who wouldn't miss this game for the world. That's coming up when Sports Unlimited returns. Kai.
Rocco, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6 o'clock. New tonight, a change at the top inside the Baltimore City Juvenile Justice Center. Why they picked a new acting intake director. And a new way to target what law enforcement calls the worst of the worst, how they're going after repeat offenders and those involved in gangs.
Tonight, changes in the Baltimore City Juvenile Justice Center. Why city leaders are voicing their concerns about how DJS handles cases. Law enforcement with a new approach to target the worst offenders, how they're tracking guns back to criminals. A teacher at an area elementary school says she felt unsafe. Why? Classroom conditions made her go on maternity leave early.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. Thanks for joining us. We are looking into some changes happening inside the Baltimore City Juvenile Justice Center. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost live now in our newsroom with what the changes are. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Mary, so we're learning that there is a new acting director of the intake process at the Baltimore City Juvenile Justice Center. That position is really the person who's responsible for making some of the decisions about whether certain cases move forward or not. And these changes come after several city leaders, including House Judiciary Chairman Luke Clippinger and Senate President Bill Ferguson, sent this letter back in November to the Department of Juvenile Services Secretary Vincent Schiraldi, as well as the Baltimore Police Department Commissioner Richard Worley. The letter outlining frustrations following an assault at the corner of Lombard and Patterson Park Avenue. The suspects in that case were brought to the Juvenile Justice Center in Baltimore by police, but not detained. Lawmakers argue the suspects should have not been released, and the policy about detaining suspects was not followed. Now, we know that this intake process has been the center of several frustrations from a few people, and just this week, we heard from Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates talk about building relationships with the secretary, including processes that he believes should make a change. Take a listen.
I believe, talking to Secretary Schiraldi, he really gets it. But I also think that he's dealing for culture and DJS, where you have individuals who just don't want to ever, no matter what young people do, ever want to have a young person detained. So he's fighting that culture.
Do you think he's fighting it, or do you think he's driving that culture?
When you want to change culture, you have to make changes.
And Mackenzie, what is DJS saying about this personnel change?
Not much. A spokesperson for DJS tells me that the agency cannot comment on personnel matters. However, I did just get an update, and we know now that the acting intake director took over that position on December 21st. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Well, law enforcement agencies say an enhanced focus on guns better allows investigators to target repeat violent offenders and gang crime. Fox 45's Alexa Ashwell takes a look at some of the recent changes.
We have two recent cases involving two separate gangs that have long plagued the city of Baltimore. The members, investigators say, brought to justice due to this collaborative effort and focus on guns.
Corey Cawthorn, a named leader of the Triple C gang, a violent drug trafficking organization that in this indictment, authorities linked to at least 18 murders and 27 shootings, today learning his fate in federal court.
Mr. Corey Cawthorn got 35 years.
The U.S. Attorney for the District of Maryland, Eric Barron, using Cawthorn's sentencing as an example of the success he says has come as a result of the collaborative and by any means necessary approach to getting the most violent offenders off city streets. In this case specifically by focusing on guns and utilizing the technology to follow the weapon known as NIBIN.
By using NIBIN, we can evaluate the ballistics recovered from one shooting and see if we can get correlation with ballistics expelled at another shooting. This case is actually a great example of how you put together a case using the most modern investigative tools and leads generated by this crime gun intelligence, and then use the RICO statute to paint the whole picture.
It's the same way investigators say they took down about a half dozen members of the Black Gorilla family. The federal indictment announced about a year ago connected the game to an attempted contracted killing and the murder of an innocent construction worker, Brian McKemmy, back in 2018. Just yesterday, McKemmy's family spoke after one of the members, Wayne Prince, pleaded guilty to racketeering conspiracy.
And to hear him say guilty, we all three kind of just clenched our hands together and like, this is the beginning of maybe a little bit of closure. You know, Brian was 27 years old when he was killed. But to me, that's who they killed. See that little boy holding the fish? See that little boy in Ocean City?
When we use crime gun intelligence to identify repeat shooters, to connect things, the identification of the worst and the worst, everybody wins.
And Barron says his office will continue to prosecute large RICO cases. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Well, this graph shows homicide trends from January of 2020 through October of 23. The first two summers of the Scott administration saw a spike in murders, which helped drive the number of homicides over 300 each of those years. However, that didn't happen until the summer of 23. In August of 22, before that, Maryland's U.S. Attorney Eric Barron announced his Al Capone-style prosecution, which he says uses a range of laws to prosecute repeat violent offenders and keep them off the street. Then 1 year ago, Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates took office. In his inaugural speech, he told the city he would be tough on crime and had a strong message for any potential criminals.
So I say to you, that's thinking about grabbing your illegal handgun and going on the streets of Baltimore City, grab your toothbrush as well, because you're going to need it.
Then we see another drop around July of 23. It was around that time Eric Barron and Ivan Bates announced a few big wins. In the span of just a few days, the two offices announced 8 defendants pleaded guilty to or were sentenced for gun crimes. All of them were repeat violent offenders.
For this teacher to speak out against what's going on, that takes guts.
I feel as a parent, again, we have the right to know what is going on in that school building.
Well, those words from parents at Baltimore County's Chesapeake Terrace Elementary School. They say a teacher claims unsafe classroom conditions forced her to take maternity leave early. The teacher wrote to families saying unsafe student behaviors were prompting her to go on leave sooner than planned. She says she needed to prioritize protecting herself and her unborn baby. The teacher also wrote that she took her concerns to higher ups, but administration was unable or unwilling to provide her with additional support. Today, alarmed parents expressed gratitude to this teacher.
For this teacher to speak out against what's going on, that takes guts. That was really brave of her, and I can imagine that this was a cry for help. And a lot of people may say, well, it's just a disgruntled employee trying to get back at the administration. That's not what this is.
Finally, someone in the building has spoken up to, voice what we have been concerned about for a while now. And I'm so grateful that she finally did.
Baltimore County Public Schools declined to answer our questions, but the school system did send a letter home to families today acknowledging a situation circulating online and throughout the Chesapeake Terrace community. They also said allegations against staff and our personnel matters, and they are limited in what details they can share.
We're following breaking news out of the state of Iowa, where police say a 17-year-old suspect killed a 6th grader and injured 5 other people. It happened just after 7:30 this morning at Perry High School. Again, this is in Iowa. Police identified the suspected shooter as 17-year-old Dylan Butler, a student at the school. He was found dead at the scene. Now, from what authorities believe, it was a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Again, a 6th grade student was killed in the attack. 4 students and 1 school administrator are being treated at area hospitals. This is a developing story. Stay with Fox 45 News for the latest updates on air and online.
We are getting ready for our next weather maker, and the system that we're tracking is over the 4 corners, already leading to some areas of winter weather. However, tomorrow that system is going to make some progress, moving a little bit farther to the east, but it's Saturday when you'll notice the impacts over our region. We're looking at snow and rain. Now, areas south of Baltimore have the best chance of seeing rain, while areas north have a better chance for snow. But regardless of where you are, this could have impacts on your plans for Saturday, whether that's in the form of snow or heavy rain. So you want to make sure that you are staying weather alert. Coming up, we'll have a closer look at the timing of the system and where to expect rain versus snow and how much we could see in my Weather Authority forecast. Back to you.
Israel says the time for diplomacy with Iran-backed fighters is running out. I'm Atral Nashar with the new threats of a larger war in the Middle East breaking out.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
fallout from the war between Israel and Hamas is stretching beyond the borders of Israel and Gaza. Confrontation with Houthi fighters on the Red Sea and bombings in Lebanon are adding to fears of a broader conflict in the Middle East. Sinclair national correspondent Atra El-Nashar joins us live from Capitol Hill with the very latest on all of this. Atra, good evening.
Hey, good evening, Mary. You know, we've been hearing Biden administration officials voice their concerns, especially in recent days, about Israel adding a new front to this war. And other world leaders are becoming more blunt about weighing in, too. The state of tension in the Middle East could be summed up with what Israel's defense minister told a U.S. envoy on Thursday. Time is running out for a diplomatic understanding with Iran-backed fighters in Lebanon. Hezbollah and the Israel Defense Forces have been exchanging fire on the Israel-Lebanon border since the October 7th attacks carried out by Hamas, which is also backed by Iran. A fear shared by leaders around the world is a bigger conflict, Israel at war with other Iran-backed groups or with Iran directly. Lebanese Foreign Minister Abdallah Abu Habib.
We don't like a regional war because it's dangerous to everybody, dangerous to Lebanon, dangerous to Israel.
Through military aid and public support, the Biden administration continues to back Israel. But after clashes in recent days and weeks with Iran-backed militia, appears wary about a bigger conflict breaking out.
Any country, any group in the region that at any time is considering taking advantage of the conflict and seeking to escalate with actions against Israel should think twice.
Louis Rene Barris, a former advisor to Israel's prime minister on nuclear affairs, writes in an op-ed for The Hill, even a still pre-nuclear Iran could elicit a limited Israeli nuclear reprisal. He says in a worst-case scenario, Israel might also perceive threats from Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. Last month, the United Nations nuclear watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Agency, was unable to verify exactly how much enriched uranium Iran has.
Nevertheless, the agency estimates that Iran maintains a total enriched uranium in stockpile more than 20 times the allowable amount under the JCPOA.
Now, a few hours ago, the White House was asked if the U.S. would still support Israel if it went after members of Hamas's leadership in another country like Qatar, even if they stayed within the bounds of international law. The White House declined to weigh in on what it said was a hypothetical scenario, Mary.
And Atra, we know Secretary of State Antony Blinken making another trip to the Middle East soon. What should we expect?
Yeah, this is essentially a tour with how many places he's stopping, leaving today for a week-long trip with stops in Turkey, Greece, Jordan, Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Israel, the West Bank, and Egypt. And according to the State Department, one of his stated goals here is to calm the rhetoric and tension in the region.
He is a busy man. All right, Atra El-Nashar on Capitol Hill for us tonight. Thank you.
Thanks.
A U.S. drone strike killed the leader of an Iranian-backed militant group in Iraq today. According to the Pentagon, the attack happened in Baghdad. They were targeting a militia leader they believe responsible for attacks on U.S. forces. A spokesperson from the Iraqi government compared the strike to terrorism and accused the U.S. of violating the country's sovereignty. The Pentagon spokesperson, Pat Ryder, defending the strike as an act of self-defense.
As I highlighted, this individual was actively involved in planning and carrying out attacks against American personnel. And as we've long said, we maintain the inherent right of self-defense and will take necessary action to protect our personnel.
Defense officials say U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria have been attacked at least 115 times since the start of the Israel-Hamas war.
Right now, you're taking a look over Baltimore, where it's nice and quiet. On the HD radar, nice and quiet as well, but a couple alerts in place as we get ready for our weather maker coming this weekend. That's going to bring snow to parts of the state. Right now, we're nice and quiet and dry. Temperature is at 37, and now skies are nice and clear. It's still a little bit breezy with winds out of the west-northwest, and that's resulting in a wind chill of just 31 degrees. It already feels like it's below freezing. Around the state, we're seeing those temperatures in the 30s, a couple spots still hanging on to the low 40s. But again, we are nice and dry. We're preparing for a winter weather maker, and in advance of that system, areas in blue are under a winter storm watch. This is where we have the greatest confidence for accumulating snowfall. Other areas still may receive some snow, and once confidence grows, there may be other alerts or warnings issued. make sure that you are following along for the latest on this system. Now, what we're tracking is still well away from our area. We're watching this low pressure system that's already leading to areas of snow across parts of the country. That system will move toward the east coast this weekend, and that's what's going to result in rain and snow across our state. We stay nice and dry tonight and into tomorrow morning. We'll wake up with plenty of sunshine. Then by the afternoon, more clouds move in. After that, we are looking at a few isolated showers to start on Saturday. However, we start to see our snow chances increase later in the morning. We're looking at snow around the Baltimore metro. However, a lot of this transitions into rain for areas south of the city. So make sure that you are staying weather alert. We have the best chances for snow north and west of 95, and there could be heavy snow at times. There could also be heavy rain at times. So throughout the day, if you will be out, you want to make sure that you have the rain gear and you are driving safely. There's even the potential for some freezing rain farther west, so this could impact Hagerstown and also into the Cumberland area. After that, a few lingering showers last into early Sunday morning. By the afternoon, we dry out. The clouds will gradually start to clear, and it's looking much better for Monday when we will enjoy a nice and dry day ahead of another weather maker arriving on Tuesday, bringing rain to much of the region. Again, we're primarily talking rain south of Baltimore. However, the city could see a trace amount of snow, and then the highest amounts will be north, where we could be looking at up to 3 inches. After Saturday's weather maker, the chance for a couple of lingering rain and snow showers early Sunday morning. We'll be back to dry weather on Monday, and then on Tuesday and Wednesday, we have our next chance for rain. It looks mostly dry, though, on Thursday. 26 for the low temperature and mostly clear. Then 43 tomorrow with increasing clouds. Coming up, we'll have a closer look at what to expect for the rest of the weekend and into next week in the exclusive 10-day forecast.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
A snowy Asheville, North Carolina shines in this magnificent shot from a nearby mountaintop. About 100 miles north, sunbeams shine down on the snow near a southwestern Virginia field. Out west, the first snow of the season fell in the mountains near Fresno, California, and it looked like a fire in the sky during last night's sunset in Las Vegas.
Want to see your weather photos and videos on TV? Click Chime In on this station's website to share.
I'm Kayla Gaskins. Coming up, hear from one of the high-profile people accused in the newly unsealed documents related to the Jeffrey Epstein case.
900 pages of documents connected to Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking case were unsealed on Wednesday. They include previously redacted names of prominent individuals associated with him. The documents stem from a civil defamation lawsuit brought in 2015 against Epstein's former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. More documents are expected to drop soon. Here is Sinclair's national correspondent, Kayla Gaskins.
Wealthy financier Jeffrey Epstein's life of glamour came crashing down in 2019 when he was charged with running an extensive sex trafficking ring, often using young girls. He committed suicide before a trial could take place and before he could point out which of his high-powered acquaintances took part in criminal activities. The latest documents don't reveal a client list, as many hoped, but they do include the names of about 150 individuals associated with Epstein.
To be mentioned by Jeffrey Epstein is radioactive. Remember that a lot of the people who were on the list probably knew Epstein in a professional way or in an academic way and had nothing to do with any of his misbehavior.
Bill Clinton is mentioned 73 times. He's not accused of anything and didn't object to the release of the documents, but a witness testified Epstein told her the former president, quote, likes them young, referring to young girls. Clinton previously said he knew nothing of the financier's, quote, terrible crimes. Donald Trump was mentioned 4 times, but also not accused of any wrongdoing. Epstein's former lawyer Alan Dershowitz is accused in the documents of having sex with a minor multiple times at the facilitation of Epstein. When we spoke with Dershowitz Thursday, he denied any wrongdoing.
Were you surprised by any of the allegations where your name was mentioned?
As far as I know, Jane Doe 3 is the woman who has now acknowledged that she may have confused me with someone else. I'm in favor of having every single piece of paper come out. I think the media wants that. Public wants that.
Prince Andrew faces similar accusations of being set up by Epstein to have sex with underage girls. Also mentioned, but not accused, scores of other politicians, celebrities, and academics connected to Epstein, including renowned astrophysicist Stephen Hawking and Michael Jackson.
Epstein's partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, is in prison serving 20 years for her role in the crimes. She maintains her innocence and is in the middle of an appeal. I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting.
We are getting ready for a cooler day tomorrow as temperatures reach the low 40s, and then the weather maker comes on Saturday, leading to rain and snow across the state. Make sure that you're staying weather alert. Temperatures reach the 40s, 45 on Sunday and mostly dry, 47 on Monday. Then temperatures climb to the 50s on Tuesday and Wednesday with